This is the guide for ShadeMix, a node management interface for Blender's shader editor. As an all-in-one mixer, it handles different combinations of inputs and outputs, allowing you to blend textures, masks, and full shaders. It also works as a switcher, giving you a dedicated UI to manage and swap between your different material setups. With that, let's get started. We'll start by pressing Shift-A to add the ShadeMix node. Then we connect our image texture to the input slot and the wire disappears. Notice how connecting to an empty input automatically creates a new one. We do the same for the output, routing it to the shader, which also spawns a new empty output slot. The layer and the channel automatically rename themselves to match their source and target. Looking at our graph, we can see a new group node. This is what physically manages these inputs and outputs, acting as our control panel. To blend colors, we can add a yellow color node to a new input, which overlays our green sphere. Then, by connecting our image texture to the yellow layer's factor input, we can blend them together. If we want a stronger effect, ShadeMix allows values beyond the standard 0 to 1 range. By setting the factor to 10, it multiplies the mask heavily, making the sphere mostly yellow while keeping the texture's structural details intact. Often we need to iterate through different material options to see what fits a scene. We now have 3 color nodes, red, cyan, and our existing yellow. Instead of connecting them one by one, we can select all 3 and route one into a new ShadeMix node. We can then change the channel mode from mix to switch. Next, we connect this switch node into our main setup. Switch mode bypasses blending entirely and provides radio buttons. This gives us a straightforward way to click through different material variations and evaluate them directly from the node's interface without reconnecting wires. The node framework can also route shader data. Here we connect a black metal material into a new ShadeMix node, which routes out to the material output. To bring back our original paint shader, we just connect it to a new layer on top. We can mix them by plugging a grunge mask into the paint layer's factor. If you need to invert the mask math, you can simply drag the factor slider down into negative values. We can also input raw color data into a shader channel. For example, connecting a white color node and ShadeMix will generate a principled BSDF wrapper for it internally. You can then adjust the metallic and roughness properties directly on the layer. By connecting a stain mask to the factor, we can add stains over our paint using standard Blender math in the background. Now, let's move on to surface details. We connect our empty output slot directly to the shader's normal input. When a normal texture is connected to the newly created input, ShadeMix interprets the data and automatically applies the necessary normal map conversion. Next, we'll add our grunge texture as a second layer. Since it is an RGB image, the add-on auto detects it as a normal map, which makes the sphere look incorrect. We can easily fix this by changing its layer type from auto to height. Once corrected, we can dial back the bump using the strength slider. What if we want the white stains to only appear on the paint and not on the exposed metal? We plug the stain mask into a new ShadeMix node and connect it to the main mixer instead. Then we connect the grunge mask to the factor. This lets us mask a mask, keeping the stains exactly where we want them. In this setup, we have wave, Voronoi, rings, and capsule textures. We select them all and connect only the Voronois, which connects them all. Notice that the add-on auto-connects the wave's factor output instead of its colors, because we connected the Voronoi factor. We can toggle to switch mode to easily isolate and quickly edit each layer strength. But we want the rings layer to be the last one in the stack, so we activate edit mode and shift-click the down arrow to instantly move it to the very bottom. Returning to mix mode, we can alt-click the visibility toggle to solo the 2 capsule layers. After adjusting the second capsule's mapping coordinates to create a metal grid pattern, we alt-click again to unsolo. Because we are in a normal channel, the default blend mode is Add UDN. In ShadeMix, this mode handles both normal map blending and height map math together, dynamically combining these different mathematical methods under the hood so we can stack both map types with no issues. For the rings layer, we change its specific mode from Add UDN to Mix. and plug in its mask so it perfectly overlays the rest of the stack. Now we are ready for the final tweaks. Selecting the wave layer, we can adjust its factor. Since it isn't mixing well with the other layers, we can just remove it. Next, we select the Voronoi layer to tweak its strength. To change the scale of the Voronoi, we Alt-click the layer name. This selects the background node, allowing us to adjust its settings in the N panel without losing focus on the main node. In this setup, we have our paint, black metal, along with the normal node we built earlier. Right now, the mask is showing more paint than metal. To see the metal better, we change the paint layer's factor to -1, which flips the mask. Next, we create a new ShadeMix node and drop it directly onto the black metal's normal connection to automatically reroute it. We then plug our normal setup into a new input on this node. Because the channel is now driving both the paint and the black metal materials, it automatically expands to display individual visibility toggles for each target destination. We can independently control over where the normal data goes. By clicking these toggles, we can easily turn the normal effect off and on for both the paint and the black metal individually, right from the source node. Back in our first setup, we have the 3 ShadeMix nodes we created. To combine them, we activate Edit Mode in the Shader Mixing node, check its channel, and press Copy. Next, we activate Edit Mode in the Color Mixing node. By holding Alt and clicking Paste, we perform a cut operation. This removes the channel from the original node and moves it directly into our color mixer. We can do the exact same thing for the switch node using Alt-click Paste to cut and move its channel over to our main node as well. By holding Shift and pressing each channel tab, ShadeMix expands to display all of them at the same time. We now have a single meganode that controls all our channels and their inputs from one place. If we ever want to separate them, we simply check the Shader Mixing channel and copy it. We then create a brand new ShadeMix node and Alt-click Paste to cut it over, and it becomes its own independent node once again. Finally, let's look at how removal works. Clicking the Remove button simply deletes the specific layer or channel you clicked. If we hold Alt and click Remove, it performs the opposite action. It removes all the other layers in that channel or all the other channels, keeping only the one you clicked. Holding Ctrl while clicking Remove acts as Clear All. It removes the layer and every other layer in that channel, or it will remove all channels on the node at once. Holding Shift while removing works specifically for channels. This performs a safe remove. It deletes the channel from the interface, but keeps its generated group node intact in the background. We can also do this in Edit Mode. We activate Edit Mode, check the channel, and hold Shift while clicking the trash icon. While Alt and Ctrl don't apply in Edit Mode due to multi-selection, Shift still perfectly executes a safe remove. If we want to delete a ShadeMix node entirely while leaving their background setups intact, we can use Ctrl-Shift-Click on a channel. The Ctrl removes all channels, while the Shift safely leaves their background setups intact. Or just Shift-Click for a single channel node, and we can select and delete them without losing its setup. However, if we simply select the ShadeMix nodes and delete them directly, it will also delete the background group nodes they control, completely removing the setup. You can see all these shortcut combinations by hovering over the info icon. With our material finalized and the setup complete, we will wrap up the video here. For more details, you can check the video description below. Thanks for watching.